Picture a country that is quite literally at a high-stakes economic crossroads. We're talking about a place with a wildly strategic geographic location, massive agricultural resources, and a digital frontier that is exploding as we speak. But despite this absolutely enormous baseline potential, the nation is locked in a battle with deep systemic economic challenges. So let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to decode the numbers, the policy shifts, and the massive macroeconomic turnaround story unfolding in Pakistan right now.
To really grasp what's happening here, you first have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of the nation. We are looking at a colossal population of over 241 million people. And it's not just a big market, it is an incredibly young one. Pakistan has one of the largest youth demographics on the entire planet. Now, this rising generation, it's basically a coin toss. It represents either an unprecedented demographic dividend, a massive workforce ready to plug into the global digital and industrial economy, or, if mismanaged, an immense socioeconomic burden.
And that brings us to the absolute core tension of this entire story. Can Pakistan finally harness its massive demographic and geographic advantages to become one of the world's fastest-growing economies? Or will decades-old structural challenges just continue to hold it back? Well, the answer lies in the data.
Section 1, the economic baseline. Let's map out this $406 billion economy.
So, in fiscal year 2025, Pakistan was navigating some intense macro-fiscal pressures. But despite that, its gross domestic product, its GDP, actually grew by 2.68%. That pushed the total size of the economy to a very significant $406 billion US. Now, if we look under the hood and break down the major economic pillars of that massive engine, the structure might actually surprise you. The services sector absolutely dominates the landscape, making up over 58% of the economy. Agriculture, which is traditionally seen as the backbone of the country, contributes roughly 23.5%, and the industrial sector comes in at just over 18%. But listen, these top-line numbers hide some serious volatility beneath the surface.
Take agriculture, for example. Despite employing a massive 37% of the entire national labor force, agriculture barely grew in the last fiscal year. It posted a tiny 0.56% gain. Why? Well, it's incredibly vulnerable to climate volatility. While the livestock side saw some gains, major crops actually plummeted by over 13% because of adverse weather and reduced cultivation. It's a sector that is still heavily reliant on nature, rather than modernized, water-smart tech. Now contrast that agricultural struggle with the industrial sector. Despite facing incredibly high interest rates and skyrocketing energy costs early in the year, the industrial sector posted a surprisingly solid 4.8% growth. Manufacturing, especially textiles, continues to be a vital export engine. It really proves the sheer resilience of Pakistani industrialists, even when the fiscal environment is tightening around them.
Moving on to Section 2, the digital and tech boom. Let's look at Pakistan's frontier economy.
If you want to see where the real explosive momentum is hiding, you have to look at the sheer velocity of IT and IT-enabled services. Look at this. Exports surged from $3.2 billion in 2024 to an impressive $3.8 billion in 2025. That is a massive 18.75% year-over-year jump. This sector alone now contributes about 45% of Pakistan's total services exports, and it's all being driven by a highly cost-competitive, English-speaking workforce that is just seamlessly plugging into the global digital grid.
There are three absolutely crucial factors driving this structural expansion. First off, Pakistan has secured its place as a top 4 global freelancing market. Second, this isn't just low-level gig work, okay? It's structural. A massive 60% of these IT exports are being absorbed by the United States, which is a huge testament to the quality of the engineering and software development happening here. And finally, there's a rapidly expanding demand from the GCC, places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. They actually prefer Pakistan-based teams for their own digital transformations because of the cultural and time zone proximity. So yeah, this is a durable, long-term expansion.
But, Section 3, the anchor. We need to talk about structural bottlenecks and fiscal traps. Because for all of Pakistan's digital momentum and industrial resilience, there are deep, systemic, structural challenges literally anchoring this potential to the ground. You simply cannot understand this economy without understanding circular debt. Now, this isn't just some boring math problem on a spreadsheet. It is the central antagonist of Pakistan's fiscal stability. Basically, it's a vicious cycle in the energy sector. It's driven by high-capacity payments to independent power producers, vast transmission losses, and delayed tariff adjustments. The state is forced to constantly borrow and subsidize just to keep the lights on.
And the staggering scale of this crisis, it's hard to overstate. By early 2026, the combined circular debt across both the power and gas sectors surged to a massive 5.2 trillion rupees. Let that sink in. Over 1.7 trillion in power and 3.4 trillion in gas. It is a massive fiscal sinkhole. It drains public finances, forces painful tariff hikes on ordinary citizens, and severely restricts the government's ability to actually invest in that young, growing population we talked about earlier.
And right alongside that energy trap, the country's battles a persistent trade imbalance. Historically, Pakistan has struggled with weak export competitiveness outside of textiles and IT. But at the same time, it maintains a huge reliance on imported fuel, machinery, and raw materials. This setup puts immense recurring pressure on the nation's foreign exchange reserves, which basically forces the country into regular IMF bailout programs just to stabilize its balance of payments.
Which brings us to Section 4, the catalysts. Let's talk about CPAC Phase 2 and the SIFC.
In response to these massive crises, the state is deploying some heavy-hitting policy mechanisms to radically rewrite Pakistan's economic trajectory. A really crucial point to understand here is the evolution of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Phase 1 was all about early harvest infrastructure, building roads, ports, and power plants to fix immediate shortages. But Phase 2, which is accelerating right now, is fundamentally different. It's a major transition from basic transport connectivity to deep industrial embeddedness, the ultimate goal to plug Pakistan directly into Chinese manufacturing supply chains and technology networks.
To make that happen, the government has aggressively expanded its industrial footprint. The number of approved special economic zones under CPEC 2.0 has skyrocketed from 7 to 44. And this isn't just about clearing land, it's about targeted localization. For example, the global EV giant BYD is already setting up assembly plants near Karachi, while other zones are zeroing in on solar value chains and critical mineral processing. It's a huge shift.
But here's the catch. To make those zones viable, Pakistan had to fix its notorious red tape, and that led to the creation of the SIFC, or the Special Investment Facilitation Council. Recently established as a permanent feature of the national economic architecture, the SIFC is essentially a civil-military single-window framework. Its entire purpose? To provide a sovereign guarantee of policy continuity to foreign investors, slicing right through layers of decentralized bureaucracy to de-risk capital.
Historically, under the 18th Amendment, investors faced this siloed, decentralized system where federal goals constantly clashed with provincial regulations. It caused endless delays. The SIFCA replaces all of that with what analysts are calling state-led hybrid capitalism. It forces interprovincial consensus and offers centralized clearance. And the result? Well, it has already successfully slashed the time to permit for major energy and tech projects by an estimated 40%.
And you know what? The market is actually responding. By fiscal year 2026, this streamlined model showed some serious, tangible results, helping to attract $2.8 billion in foreign direct investment. And that capital was specifically targeted at the high-growth technology and agriculture sectors. It's real proof of concept. It shows that when you remove the friction, capital absolutely will flow toward the demographic and geographic opportunities that Pakistan offers.
As the official communications point out, the SIFC is not a replacement for existing institutions, but a catalyst for their integration. Think of it as a massive institutional patch. It's designed to create a predictable environment for long-term capital, even amidst all that macroeconomic volatility we discussed. It's literally the state actively coordinating market activities to force development goals across the finish line.
So, what does this all mean? What's the ultimate verdict here? Look, Pakistan is simultaneously a booming digital frontier and an economy weighed down by a 5.2 trillion rupee energy debt. So the big question remains, will this new state-led hybrid model, combining deep integration with global supply chains and single-window investment clearing, finally unlock Pakistan's paradox of potential? Or will legacy debts anchor its future forever? The blueprint for a turnaround is clearly on the table right now, but as always, execution is absolutely everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope this helped